Mary and John had been in a relationship for 6 years. They lived in a small town where Mary worked in banking and her husband worked remotely as a programmer for an international company. When Mary was offered a promotion and a job at the main branch in the capital, they made the decision to move. John's job was not tied to a specific location, and Mary was eager to try her hand in a new environment. The move to the capital was not easy at first, as the couple had to adjust to the slightly different customs of the city. Mary was surprised by the fierce competition among colleagues eager to succeed and earn bonuses. One coworker, Kinsley, seemed to perceive Mary as a threat and often intimidated her or provided misleading information. Despite this, Mary remained confident and professional in her work. One evening, Mary voiced her concerns to John about the strong competition in the office. He reassured her, telling her that in time she would adjust to the new dynamics and things would settle down. A few weeks later, the office was buzzing with excitement when word got out about the company's annual company party. Everyone was eagerly discussing the upcoming event. After the announcement, Kinsley approached Mary, invited her to lunch, and told her about the fun activities that were planned for the office. Mary was stunned by the unexpected friendliness of Kinsley, a girl who initially disliked her. However, Mary considered it a misleading first impression and did not suspect anything wrong. In the days that followed, Kinsley worked diligently to gain Mary's trust and successfully did so without arousing any suspicion. When Mary learned of the upcoming company party, she immediately shared the news with her husband and invited him to keep her company. Intrigued by the idea of getting to know his wife's new team, Arthur accepted the invitation. From what Mary had told him earlier, it seemed that everything was going well, and there were no more problems. On the day of the event, Mary was sitting in front of the mirror getting ready, while her husband was finishing up his work on the computer. Suddenly, he stopped typing and immersed himself in the messages on his phone. "Oh no," he muttered to himself, clearly frustrated. Concerned, Mary asked him what was wrong. He replied that he was upset because of the urgent fixes that were required for their application. Unfortunately, he informed Mary that she would have to go to the party without him. Although Mary was unhappy with this turn of events, she realized that Arthur's work was very important, and there was nothing she could do about it. She finished packing, said goodbye to her husband, and headed for the restaurant. As soon as she entered the establishment, Kinsley immediately approached her and held out a glass of champagne. "You didn't want to drink on an empty stomach, but one of our colleagues insisted. Let's drink to the celebration and our new friendship," Kinsley said with a smile. Throughout the evening, Kinsley made sure Mary's glass was always full and always served her a drink. The woman, feeling quite relaxed due to the effects of alcohol, decided to dance a little. She had no idea that their departmental colleague Arthur came up to them. A pleasant conversation ensued. Arthur began showering Mary with compliments and openly flirting with her. Deep down, Mary couldn't help but enjoy the attention of the most attractive man in their office, who was coveted by other women. It was Mary who had caught his interest. Without warning, their friend Kinsley stepped out of the situation and disappeared into the unknown. They wouldn't see her for the rest of the evening. A flash of passion swept over Arthur as he embraced his intoxicated coworker and whispered something in her ear. He tried to pull Mary away from the other guests. She resisted at first, but eventually gave in. Some part of her soul also desired this attractive man. They crept down the deserted hallway and found privacy in one of the offices. It was there that things unraveled. After a fleeting moment of pleasure, as Arthur hastily buttoned his pants, the full weight of her act fell upon the woman. She sobered abruptly, overwhelmed with guilt and self-loathing. In a hurry, Mary hailed a cab, avoiding meeting anyone's gaze, and quickly left the restaurant. When she got home, her husband was already sound asleep. "Luckily, he won't see my current state," she thought as she quickly threw her dress into the wash. Mary stood under the shower for what seemed like an eternity, silently drenching herself with tears. She could not pluck up the courage to confess what had happened to her husband. The mere thought of it would break him. Over the next week, Mary became like her old self, walking through life in a state of silence and despair. John immediately noticed the change in Mary's demeanor and asked if everything was all right. She assured him that everything was fine, however, and avoided discussing the true cause of her anxiety. Eventually, someone else decided to reveal the truth. Mary returned home one day and found the apartment unexpectedly quiet. Cautiously entering the living room, she found Arthur sitting with his head bowed and his hands clasped together. In front of him lay a tablet turned on. At that moment, Maria's heart clenched. In a breaking voice, her husband said, "Your friend Kinsley sent me this," and slid the tablet toward her. The tablet played the video from the surveillance camera installed in their office during the company party. Now Mary finally understood why this jealous woman was undermining her trust. With tears in her eyes, Mary exclaimed, "I told you she's always trying to sabotage me." Her husband, Arthur, thoughtfully asked, "So there's no videotape?" Mary immediately fell silent as she continued to stare steadfastly into her husband's eyes. "It's me, I understand," she began, but her ever-increasing tears prevented her from finishing the sentence. "I've had too much to drink, and I'm sorry," she managed to utter. Stunned by the situation, her husband replied, "I don't know if I could ever get over something like that. I need time to think," and left the apartment. John was consumed with pain. If only he had accompanied his wife to the event, none of this would have happened. However, he reminded himself that Mary could have declined the invitation. The security cameras showed that she had not been forced to participate, so maybe this incident wouldn't have happened during the corporate event. As he walked down the street, countless thoughts ran through his head. He reflected on all the years of happiness they had shared together. John wondered where it had all gone wrong, but realized that after this incident he could no longer see his wife in the same light. How much longer would she keep quiet about it? John made the difficult decision to divorce. He could not delude himself into thinking that all was well in their marriage. He left Mary in a rented apartment in the city and moved to a place closer to the south that had always appealed to him. Despite Mary's objections to the move, she couldn't continue working at the bank's main office. Arthur was not shy about bragging to his coworkers about his adventures with his new girlfriend. During breaks, a colleague added fuel to the fire by showing a video she had bought from a security guard, thus making Mary's situation even worse. This led to Mary eventually quitting her job and leaving town.